Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jenna Flanagan. In the wake of the deadly anti-Semitic attack at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Frontline and ProPublica investigate a neo-Nazi group called the Atomwaffen Division that is actively recruiting from inside the U.S. military. Take a look.
Hold a perimeter. We're under fire. We're under fire. He's got an automatic weapon. He's firing out in front of the synagogue.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, October 27th, 2018.
We're evacuating one right now.
Robert Bauer storms into the Tree of Life Synagogue with an AR-15 and kills 11 Jewish worshippers.
7-1 suspects talking about all these Jews need to die.
Members of the Tree of Life Synagogue, conducting a peaceful service in their place of worship, were brutally murdered by a gunman targeting them simply because of their faith.
Over the past few years, I've been reporting on a resurgent white supremacist movement. I've seen violence in cities across the country. And now this, what looks to be the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in American history. And I fear there will be more to come.
Here with more is Frontline correspondent and ProPublica reporter, A.C. Thompson. A.C., welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
One of the things that stuck out to me the most was the fact that you were able to draw a line between frustrated veterans who are coming home from war and an uptick in white supremacy. How were you able to do that?
You know, a lot of that research comes from Kathleen Belew. She's a historian at the University of Chicago, and that's one of the things that she's been looking at. She wrote a great book called Bring the War Home, and she sort of traced the evolution of the white supremacist movement in the post-Vietnam era and saw these spikes. And that was a fascinating thing to us. I mean, I should say, look, my father was a soldier. My grandfather was in the Army as well. Most of the men in my family have served in the military. So I'm totally respectful of the military, and I have great appreciation for them. But there has been persistently this small, hard core of characters that come out of the military and go into leadership roles in these groups.
Well, and specifically, there was one group that you focused on, and of course, that was, I believe, Atomwaffen, correct?
Right.
How were you able to get people to talk with you so candidly about what was going on the inside?
You know, really the biggest challenge to getting people to talk, they weren't scared about law enforcement or the public in general. They were scared that their former comrades in this group, which is basically a terrorist organization, would physically harm them or their families.
Well, that, of course, then builds on, I think, what is the second and more important thread in this piece, and that is the fact that there isn't a fear of what law enforcement might do to them.
Well, that was the stunning thing. The founder of this group got questioned at his home in Tampa, Florida, and in his home, he had radioactive material, high-powered explosives, a ton of weapons and ammunition, fuses, parts of pipe bombs, terrorist manuals, Mein Kampf, and 2 dead bodies. And the FBI and the local police released him from the crime scene. And that's just a little bit baffling to me and to other law enforcement sources I've spoken to. And a lot of people I've interviewed have said, look, law enforcement does not seem necessarily prepared to deal with the threat of white supremacist terrorists.
You're talking about a man named James Mason, and in the piece, we see you go to speak with him. Can you give us your sense of what kind of a profile that he fits?
His deal is, look, he spent 30 plus years promulgating an ideology that says we need fascism in America, we need a whites-only country, and we need to get there by ushering in acts of hyper-violence, political assassination, terrorism, and occasionally guerrilla struggle so that we collapse the government and then can take power. That is his deal. And that is what the Atomwaffen group and other groups like them are sort of acting out. This is a movement that says to its adherents, you don't need a big, huge group to do important acts. You only need you or a few of your best friends to go out and shoot up a school or a synagogue or a church or a Sikh house of worship, a gurdwara. You only need a very small group of people to take the terrorist acts that we believe will save the white race.
What do you think is the most important thing for people to take away from seeing this film?
One thing that we definitely want people to consider is, look, there is a terrorist organization operating in our midst. And since the authorities first started looking at this group in May 2017, 3 more people have been killed allegedly by members or associates of this group. And I think that should be a concerning thing for folks. This group, Atomwaffen Division, has been able to continue to operate, to recruit new members, to disseminate its ideology on the web without a lot of interference. So I think that's a key thing. And the second key thing, I think, is that we need to look at this nexus between the military and the white power movement. And again, that's not to disparage the military, not my goal at all. It's actually to strengthen the military because, when you have these people within the ranks, you can't have decent unit cohesion, a decent workforce. These people are coming out of the armed forces, joining up with the white power movement, and they tend to be the architects of some of the most serious crimes the movement is responsible for. So that's a thing we need a real aggressive look at that by the Pentagon and by the chiefs of the various branches.
All right. Well, once again, it's another compelling piece of journalism. AC, I want to thank you so much for joining us again and, of course, for the work that you do.
Hey, thank you. I'll come on and talk about a story that's not so depressing sometime, I swear.
Oh, great. Yes, we would love to have that just once.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.